Okay, and we are back. I took a long break and I'm feeling much happier now. Anyway, Shiki! That's what they said, though he only heard it for a second as they passed him. People were still running from the east side of the street, the side that lay opposite the hotel. It was too dark to see their faces, but he got the sense that they were afraid. Shiki? It sounded like someone's name. Whose? Your boyfriend! Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. Was there an Igro fighter? So feared that people would flee him in a panic. The thought piqued his interest. I mean, is this the same reaction that they had to, like, the executioners? The thought piqued his interest. It couldn't hurt to check it out as long as he was careful and it would distract him from his present mood. Yeah. I would go get Rin. Akira left the alley and traced the river. Although, wouldn't he... He's seen Shiki in the photograph of Rin's, right? Like, wouldn't he be like, oh, that guy? Akira left the alley and traced the river of fleeing men back the way they'd come. Oh my god, boyfriend! He stopped at the entrance of another alley. There was no sign of anyone around, so as if everyone in the vicinity had fled. But by focusing his senses, he caught a hint of someone's presence. I wish I could do that. Akira felt his body stiffen. This wasn't some common thug looking for a kill. There was something back there, in the darkness of the alley, something as cold and deadly as any blade. A ray of moonlight broke through the clouds, and there he saw what the other had done. Pools of blood dotted the ground, streaks of red painted the walls. A thick iron stench filled the air. 6 men lay dead on the ground, and at the very center of these corpses stood another man, back to Akira. The man was wearing a black coat. It was his presence Akira had felt. Shiki. This had to be the man from whom everyone had fled. Shiki means devil in Japanese, right? Or like demon. For an instant, something flickered at the back of Akira's mind. He'd seen something like this before. Where? That was when the man looked over his shoulder. Oh, great. He noticed you. It's like a wild animal. You just never let him notice you, you know? As soon as a wild animal sees you or like registers your existence, just, you know, you're fucked. Crimson eyes, redder than blood. I enjoy the music. His stare pierced Akira with a quiet but irresistible intensity, pinning him in place. Suddenly, the man vanished from sight as though melting into the darkness. Where had he gone? He's behind you. Just as Akira turned to look, a shadow burst from the alley. A sharp burst of wind, the flash of naked steel. The shock nearly made Akira lose his balance, but somehow he managed to leap back. He hurled away the bag he'd been holding and reached for the knife at his waist. The man in black landed lightly on his toes, then charged at Akira for a second time. Oh my god, action! Look at this. Oh my god, this looks amazing. Look at him! Oh my god! Emo boyfriend! Raising his drawn knife before him, Akira caught the next attack. The impact rang out in the night. The man's weapon was a katana. Heavier than his knife, it took both hands and all his strength to keep from losing ground. Any other blade would have failed him already. Well, as he bore down against Akira's knife, the man fixed him with a cold, keen stare. Up close, his face was pallid and expressionless, his eyes alone seethed with bloodlust, like two burning coals in the dark. Ooh, he looked almost like a mannequin. What? He looks like he just walked out of Hot Topic. Akira's arms began to tremble from the effort of holding him off, yet even now the man did not so much as blink. Like his entire persona just screams My Chemical Romance. Unable to withstand the pressure of his stare, Akira averted his eyes without thinking any longer, and he was certain the man's gaze would cut him into ribbons from the inside out. Ooh. Oh my god, look at him! Oh damn, girl, look at them legs! And that hourglass, woo! Hell yeah! What a dude! I love him! This entire style is so ridiculous. I love it! A moment after Akira looked away, the man stepped smoothly back. Damn! Very smooth with those legs. His sword sang in the wind as he whipped it to the side. He stood there for a few moments more, watching Akira without saying a word. But then he turned his back, a clear gesture of indifference. Oh my god, my feelings are fragile. taste of defeat rose in Akira's mouth. By averting his eyes, he had revealed his weakness. He was no longer worthy to be this man's opponent. Ouch! That hurts. That hurts. That really does. Still, he had no one to blame but himself. It was the first time he had ever felt so outclassed. Even now, he tingled with the memory of it, as if his body were roasting in an invisible flame. To think that I have met my match in being emo. He is like my Dante to my Virgil. He had sensed the man's strength, not with his head, but with his skin. His pulse was racing even now. The hard sound of boots on pavement reached his ears. When he looked up, the man had already vanished into the shadows. Was that man fighting in Igra too? As Akira gazed into the shadows that had swallowed him, he felt his excitement fade into chagrin? Igra was nothing like Blasta. He had understood this on an intellectual level, but now the knowledge had been hammered into his bones. His successes meant nothing here. He had never been one to take pride in his position, but the truth still left a bitter taste in his mouth. After standing there silently for a few moments more, he sheathed his knife and picked up his bag. Well. Akira's unpleasant mood had vanished during the fight. Thinking it was time to get back to the others, he started toward the hotel. Replaced with an even worse mood, you mean? Oh god, I hate this alleyway. He barely made it out of the alley before sensing someone behind him. Oh god, another one. Footsteps, and not just one set, but two, no three. He quickened his pace, but they kept coming. They were chasing him. They didn't feel much of a threat, but Akira wasn't keen on facing multiple opponents at once. Igra's basic rules required that fights be one-on-one with witnesses, but these guys weren't necessarily fighters. Ooh. Huh? A man leapt out of the alley ahead, blocking his path. He sprinted toward Akira, knife out thrust. His charge was clumsy and reckless, if this was the best he could do. As the man stabbed at him again, Akira grabbed his wrist and pulled it toward him, using the momentum of his charge to throw him over his shoulder. Ooh. As he relieved the winded goon of his knife, Akira felt another man off his back. He spun, snapping a roundhouse kick into the second man's stomach, then followed with a toe kick to the jaw. Hell yeah! Let's go, girl! The man collapsed, knife skidding down the sidewalk. Eep! That face with just eep! The third man, who had emerged from the same alley as the second, froze, knife in hand, beneath Akira's stare. Although his arms were still tired from the struggle with Shiki, it wouldn't make a difference against these three. He wouldn't even need his own weapon. Akira took a step toward the last of the trio. Ooh. A sharp crack split the air, and pain like 1,000 white-hot needles blossomed along his back. For an instant, his body forgot how to breathe. Ooh. The pain gave way to a numbness that spread all the way to his fingers and toes. He sank to his knees, unable to stand. Oh, shoot! The man behind him, the one he kicked in the stomach, was crawling toward him with something in his hand. Did he just tase us? A stun gun! Yo! As he tried to get up, the man grabbed him by the hair and pulled him to the ground. Ignoring the pain in the scalp, Akira flipped himself over to keep from landing on his back. If his back touched the ground, he would lose. The first man, the one he'd thrown, crouched down and peered into his face. His hair had a peculiar shine, like it had been dyed silver. After a moment, the man smirked and stood up, then stepped past Akira's head and lowered himself onto Akira's hips. He pinned Akira's arms, which were still numb, behind his back. Wait. Fair fight? I just saw the image and I was like, and then I saw what he said and I was like, fair fight? Let's go! A low laugh echoed in Akira's ear. I thought we were going to fight. Yo, fuck you! Oh my god. Rin, come save me. Or maybe Shiki? Maybe Shiki? Open for Shiki? Titty set for Satan! Come on, Shiki! The man straddling Akira reached out from behind and forced his chin up. The second man who had used the stun gun on Akira was glaring at him while rubbing his jaw. The third man was standing a few steps away, still paralyzed with fear. The stench of piss. 3 pairs of eyes, all clouded. These men were doped up on rain.
お前ってそっちの気あったんだっけか勘弁してくれよ差別は良くないぜまあ俺は
Wow, very progressive of you.
女でもいいんだけどなただの欲求不満かよ
Wow, very inclusive. Equal opportunity. The man laughed crudely.
話せ
Overcome with revulsion and anger, Akira tried to shake the man off, but he was at too great a disadvantage with his arms pinned behind him. Yeah, that sucks. The man grabbed another fistful of Akira's hair and pulled his head back as far as it would go. Ugh. Fuck you! The man's hot breath in his ear made him nauseous. Fuck you, I will not! When rough hands started to undo his belt, Akira felt that he could hear the blood drain from his face. He recalled the scene he had witnessed soon after entering Toshima, a man raspberrying his defeated opponent. No matter what, Akira would not let that happen to him. This is not a bad ending, right? I wasn't warned about this, so this can't be a bad ending. We're gonna be safe. Akira bucked with all his strength, trying to throw the man off. Perhaps the man had felt his position secure after Akira's last attempt, because this time Akira was able to free his arms with surprising ease. Nice! He started to rise on his elbows, but the man punched him in the side. Ooh. Oh, fuck you, man. The blow made him dizzy, but he set his jaw against the pain and rose to his knees. There, cold steel touched his cheek. He froze. Yo, what the fuck? The man set his knife up Akira's cheek and waved it in front of his eyes. Executioners!
Can't
believe I'm calling for them after playing those endings. The man seized Akira's right wrist and twisted it behind his back. His joints screamed, ow! Oh, no. 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 The man started poking at Akira's arm, looking for a good spot. Finding one, the knife slipped through his clothes and sank into the flesh of his arm. Pain lanced up his spine. Can someone save us? The man pulled the knife out, then seized Akira by the jaw and forced him to look into his smiling face. Akira could see the knife. Its tip dyed in the color of his blood. The man opened his mouth and took a lick. Ew. What is up with all the licking in this game? There's so much licking. Disgusted, Akira squeezed his eyes shut. Bitch. The blade went up against his arm once again. Akira braced himself for the coming pain. However... Shiki? After a moment's silence, the man's knife fell to the pavement with a sharp metallic sound. The other 2 men gaped. Their friend was slumped against Akira's back, motionless. Akira took this opportunity to free his arm. As he did, the weight on his back stirred. The stab wound hurt, but he ignored it and got up, quickly putting some distance between them. Yo, what? Is it the drug? The man threw his head back, scrabbling at his throat. His tongue protruded from a mouth wide in agony. It was almost like he was having a seizure, save for the strange discoloration of his skin. Quick, Akira, stab him! The man slowly toppled backward. Akira could do nothing but watch in mute astonishment. What was happening here? Not noticing a metallic scraping sound, he looked down to see a bundle of tacks had fallen from the convulsing man's pocket. By this point, the man had collapsed and now lay face up on the pavement. His back was touching the ground. Akira had won. In which case, heart racing, Akira reached for the bundle of tacks.
Damn it!
Yo. The man with his stun gun shouted in protest, but made no move to intervene. Clearly, he was shocked as well. Akira ripped the tack from the man's neck, shoved the whole bunch into his pocket, and seizing his abandoned bag, burst into a run. I want that stun gun, though! I would have fought that motherfucker for that stun gun. He ducked into the first alleyway he saw and kept running. Nah, fuck off. Gotta go. Left the stove on. Their voices pursued him for a while, but eventually faded into the distance. Okay. He had meant to run back toward the hotel, but the labyrinth of alleys had made him lose his way. No! Worst case scenario! Suspecting that he was headed in the wrong direction, Akira slowed to a stop and slumped against the wall. Oh, baby boy! Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, fuck, I care about him now. Look at him. Oh, baby. Panted hard, shoulders heaving. He panted hard, sorry. Now that he was no longer running, he could feel his lungs straining to draw breath. He closed his eyes until his breathing had relaxed, though his pulse continued to hammer in his throat. Imagine if he was all alone in this place. Like, imagine. That would be horrible. So good that he has Rin and Keisuke, I guess. Hoping that his heart was not about to explode, Akira pried open his sweat-drenched hand to verify what he was holding. 5 tags, the one he had taken from the silver-haired man. There was no need to feel guilty. At the time, the man's back had been touching the ground. But then, how was he supposed to explain his leaden mood? Why wouldn't his heart stop racing? He couldn't shake the image from his head. The silver-haired man, convulsing in agony, clutching desperately at his throat as he collapsed. Probably drugs, right? What had triggered that sudden episode? Certainly nothing Akira had done. Or maybe Akira's blood. The only reason I didn't point out the blood before is because the executioners licked up his blood. But then again, maybe it's blood together with the drug or something like that. Because the executioners wouldn't have taken the drug, obviously. So, yeah, maybe his blood. Maybe that. Had the man been sick? No. If anything, that had seemed more like poison or some kind of allergic reaction. But all he had was baseless speculation, and besides, the man had been a drug addict. There was no telling what problems his use of rain may have caused. And yet, Akira couldn't help but feel something ominous at work. A disquieting sensation smoldered in the pit of his stomach, like the wailing of distant sirens, and the man's tortured expression was burned into his mind. I'm getting kind of concerned that Akira is so averse to killing people, or even hurting them when they are of God, you know? Realizing that it was pointless to dwell on the matter, Akira took a breath, then stuffed the tags into his jacket pocket. At least he took the tags. Like, not with the last guy, with Takeru, where he just like, yeah, here you go. Have your tenor back. There were other things to think about. Thanks to his curiosity, what was supposed to have been a chance to cool his head led instead to a singular encounter. Sorry, what I'm trying to say is like, sorry, I have ADHD. I'm just, my thoughts are everywhere. Just basically, like, I don't understand, like, if you're in a situation like Akira's, you should be very much out for yourself. How is he so compassionate? You know what I mean? He doesn't fight people on his, like, from his, you know, it's never his idea to fight. And even if he is in a fight, he's always like, oh, okay, well, you're not fighting, so I'm not fighting. Oh, you have something to look at on the ground like a cross. I'm just gonna stand here and wait for you and your little prayer session to be over. Like, do your job. Do it like quickly, you know? Just use everything you have. He's not desperate in the least. He's so casual and compassionate. It's just weird. Shiki. Those dead bodies scattered around him had almost likely been his handiwork, and his mere presence had been enough to make hardened Igra fighters flee with their tails between their legs. Also, I'm sorry, but I feel like we're never going to defeat Ilra. Akira didn't blame them. He knew exactly what they'd been running from. He'd felt it when he and Shiki had crossed blades. The pain in his right arm chose this moment to assert itself. He pulled the arm out of his jacket to examine the wound. The wound was on his upper arm. A rivulet of blood flowed toward his elbow, but the wound itself didn't seem that deep. Some basic first aid and it ought to be fine. You really need disinfectant for that. Feeling a great deal more calm, Akira decided it was time to head back to the hotel. Fortunately, this alley seemed to be connected to the main road. He pushed himself off from the wall and headed toward the avenue. Just as he approached the end of the alleyway, 2 human figures cut across his line of sight, accompanied by a dragging noise. He didn't need to see their faces to know who they were. Their gait and towering stature said it all. Executioners? The executioners. His heart suddenly racing again, Akira pressed his back to the alley wall and peeked out at the street. The short-haired executioner, Kiriwar, was dragging another man along by the collar. The man was limp, lifeless, dead. Akira barely stifled a gasp. He knew that man. It was the silver-haired man whose tax he'd just taken. Come to think of it, Rin had mentioned that the executioners disposed of defeated fighters. His feet were already carrying him backward. By the time he recovered from his shock and stopped himself, it was already too late. His heel had found a scrap of fallen metal. No! A heavy metallic sound echoed through the night. Nothing. Keep going. I'm just taking a piss. The blonde man Gunji, who had been skipping down the sidewalk while humming to himself, turned to look into Akira's direction. A bolt of lightning terror shot up Akira's spine. Yep. Meow. Meow. Akira held his breath and backed up slowly. Oh wait, we're in Japan. Meow. Hoping that the thick darkness would hide him. After the encounter with the dog and the mess with Takeru, the last thing he wanted was another run-in with these two. Just then, a pair of arms seized Akira from behind, sealing his mouth with a hand and dragging him backward. The darkness swallowed him. As he struggled, a familiar bass voice hissed in his ear. Oh, it's the one with the cute name. This voice. The person shoved Akira toward the back of the alley and stepped in front of him. His broad-shouldered torso was clad in a shabby shirt. Motomi!
Neko-chan.
Gunji hunched over, peering into the shadows with narrowed eyes, barely visible past his bangs. His mouth soon crooked into a frown.
Neko.
So they know him. I'm telling you! Mr. Mono is a friend of Ida. Definitely. Motomi stepped forward before they could catch a glimpse of Akira. Leaning against the wall with his arms folded, he looked the picture of unflappable calm. I want to stick with you, Motomi. I can't look at you anymore, Kiriwa. I really can't. With a look of disgust, Motomi jerked his chin at the man Kiriwa was pulling. Excuse me? Gunji let out a strange cry and jumped to his feet. The two executioners shared a grin. With an air of resignation, Motomi waved his hand to shoo them away. Gunji turned to look at his partner. Huh? Who cares? Are they killing each other now? Kiriwa's pipe met Gunji's skull with a satisfying thwack. Gunji stumbled back, clutching at his forehead. Even more stupid? Is that possible? Kiriwa started off down the sidewalk, ignoring Gunji's screeching. Gunji ran to catch up with his partner, and then the two vanished, shouting down the road toward the palace. After confirming that they were gone, Motomi turned around, sighed, and gave Akira an accusatory look.
Dude, what
are you even doing here, even? Okay. Dude, you could have just left it at chased me until I dropped dead. Why? They don't mess with you. Yeah, exactly. What is up with you? I mean, yeah, I get that, but also they know you. Akira looked away. He didn't want to explain. Instead, he responded with a question of his own. Yeah, I
まあ
saw
俺
him.
が着いた時にはもういなくなった後だったが
I saw him and he, without speaking, called me a bitch boy.
Shiki
Akira tried his best to feign ignorance.
ああまあなんつうかな
Hideously
いくらの参
strong.
加者なんだが神出鬼没で恐ろしく強い奴が通った後には死体しか残らない、まあ、そんな感じで恐れられてる男だどこで何やってんだか知らないが
Oh my god, he's like Bigfoot. Sightings are rare. He's like in the sewers, like slithering around like a crocodile.
出
Oh,
てきたと思ったらすぐに
hideously
消え
strong,
てる
bro.
大抵は誰か殺してなまあそんなんだから伝説として語られてるようなとこもあって
Understandable.
密かに憧れてるやつも多い
When I was a young boy. Akira recalled the man in black. Indeed, Akira had never encountered anyone with an aura like his. But anyone that strong should have no trouble collecting the tags to challenge Ire.
式はイルレには挑まないのか
Shiki's never challenged Ire?
俺の知る限りではないな
Huh?
でも奴が麻薬王の座なんか狙ってるとは思えない
Then why is he playing the game?
他に何か目的があるかふらっと気が向いた時に人を殺して楽しむ
But why play the game?
そんな感じじゃないのか
An elusive Igra fighter who didn't care about winning. Strange indeed. Why would you play the game if you don't care about winning? But also, it would be too easy for him to be
式が出
Ira,
没した
right?
近辺でも他に一悶着あったって聞いたからちっと歩き回ってたんだ
他
A scuffle.
イグラのタグ取りがな
Motomi abruptly narrowed his eyes and gave Akira a searching look.
なんだよ
Your face is
大物
dirty.
だなお前
Ah, I haven't showered in a couple days. Motomi's thick finger scrubbed roughly at Akira's cheek.
お前さんか
Yeah. Akira didn't have anything to hide. Fighting for tax was business as usual in this city. But for some reason, he found himself looking away.
取られたのかタグを
No!
いや
As you can see, I still have my tags.
取ったのか
When he nodded, Motomi wrinkled his brow and put on a little smile.
そうか
Good one, bud. Akira searched Motomi's face, unable to tell whether the old man was relieved or troubled, or
さっき処刑人が引きずってたやつあいつ
probably, you know it
あい
was
つ
him.
が
寄り寄って相手か
ああ
なるほどなまあ気をつけろよってイグラに参加してるんだからそんなこと言われなくてもとっくに腹決めてるか
I would like the Motomi route. Thank you. One Motomi to go. Motomi stared at Akira's face for a moment, then suddenly broke into a grin.
あお前さんは特にな
Yeah!
気ぃつけた方がいいぞ
Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Was it just his imagination or was Motomi teasing him? No, he just called you pretty. Akira leveled a stare at the older man.
何が
いや
Letting the question dangle, Motomi looked up at the sky grinning. He kept rubbing at his unshaven jaw.
ここいらは女が極端に少ないだろ
Nah, nah,
だから
nah.
まあ気をつけろって
Ah.
どういう意味だ
Dude, do you really need him to spell it out?
そういう意味だな
Yeah, exactly. He did know, and he knew that Motomi was just joking with him. But having run into precisely that sort of trouble not long ago, he felt a surge of irrational anger. Ooh. Oh. Let it go, obviously. Because it's like not his fault, you know? He is right. He is right. Also, I like him. So I'm gonna let it go. Seeing that Akira had enough of his teasing, Motomi shrugged and shrugged. I wanted to say struggled, but I then read it as shrugged. I don't know, bro. Okay, whatever. Seeing that Akira had had enough of his teasing, Motomi shrugged and put on a softer smile.
まあまあ冗談だマジになるなよ
I don't know, I'll lighten up if you kiss me. He patted Akira on his right arm. It was only a light touch, but Akira grimaced at the pain. Motomi's expression turned sober.
どうした
I'm hurt.
いや
I have an
怪我したの
owie.
こっちが
Motomi gently turned Akira's arm to look.
破れてるな刺されたか
Yes, it hurts. Can you kiss it better?
でもそんなに深くない
一応処置はしといた方がいいだろうな。ここからだとホテルが近いが。
At the hotel.
リンと一緒にホテルにいる。
お前さん一人でこんなとこにいたのか。
Yeah, I'm a dumbass, obviously. Motomi regarded Akira with mild surprise.
少し外の空気を吸いたかったから。
ああ、気分転換に外に出たら襲われたとか。
Shocking in these kinds of circumstances that something like this would happen. Akira let this pass without comment. It was close enough to what had really happened, and he didn't feel like explaining the rest. This reminds me of a class trip we took in school, and me and two of my girlfriends, we kind of like walked around at night because we just couldn't get to sleep. It was so warm. And we walked around the hotel, just like around the hotel. So it was like, I don't know, a kilometer or like maybe 1.5, right? In total. And when we got back, our teacher was so mad at us. She was like, you have no idea what is prowling out there. And we were like, okay, she's getting, you know, it's like, yeah, we know, like teenagers, right? But I distinctly remember that when we were back home, a friend, well, one of the two friends, she found out what happened in that district, right? There was like an incident. And that was just, you have no idea how much we grew up after hearing that. Like, oh my god, we were just like, oh, our teacher is being so ridiculous and stuff, right? And then we heard that and we were like, oh my fucking god, it was just a kilometer. Like, what? It was insane. So yeah, sorry, I just remember that. So don't just take a walk in other countries just because you think it'll be fine. It's just a little bit. You have no idea what the climate there is like. So yeah. Anyway, Akira let this pass without comment. It was close enough to what had really happened, and he didn't feel like explaining the rest. Typical Akira. Akira had no reason to refuse. Yeah, let's go. Late that night, two shadows climbed the steps of the palace. Their heavy footfalls rang out on the marble, together with another sound, like a sack of grain being dragged over the logs. They're taking the dead body into the castle? What the fuck? The guards who had been drifting off at their post immediately jerked awake. Faces pale, they looked up to see the executioners looming before them. Kiriwa's deep voice seemed to make the night quiver. One of the guards ran off to alert Abitro, while another hastened to open the door. The remaining guards aimed pitying stares at the man in Kiriwa's grip. He was still alive! They brought him here to receive a fate far worse than death. Oh no! Oh fuck! Oh god, I'm so sorry, Kitty. Oh, I don't want to see that.
どれでも好きな品を一品お選びください。お好みのカスタマイズも承りますよ。
Arbitra's smile deepened as he watched the man's Adam's apple convulse. Oh god. This was Arbitra's private display room. His collection of prizes lay sprawled on purple velvet, the man examining them with a feverish gaze that was equal parts shock and desire. I thought he didn't have an arm, that's why I was looking, but like, oh my god. It had begun on a whim. One day, while operating on some particularly fine specimen, he'd started to wonder what might happen if he offered them up as prizes. The reaction had exceeded his expectations, and thus the trade in modified slaves had become another cornerstone of this empire. In addition to the boys whom Arbitro had selected based on his personal tastes, these slaves included a number of girls with waifish, undeveloped bodies. He had begun dealing in girls in response to customer requests. Rumor had it that some people joined Igra solely in order to purchase a slave. It was the perfect form of recycling, a way to enjoy his hobby without leaving too many bodies on the streets. Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Arbitro was extremely satisfied with the collection he'd assembled. The slaves' bodies were covered in scars and bruises, each the perfect color, size, and shape. The sight of them filled him with bliss. Seriously? You're telling me that a wimp like you has joined Igra and has enough tag collateral to buy this? Are you kidding me? The man pointed tentatively at one of the slaves.
彼ですね。かしこまりました。
Oh my god.
とても柔軟で肌のキメも細かい。
Oh my god.
そうか。
The slave in question was slumped against the slave beside him, his head on the other boy's shoulder. Oh god, I feel so horrible for him. His eyes were glassy and dim, like the eyes of a corpse. He looked as though the support were the only thing keeping him from sliding to the floor. And yet the boy was very much alive. It was simply that he had no will of his own. He never would again.
オプションの指定などございますでしょうか。
No.
オプション。
はい。ピアッシング、インプラント、タトゥー、声帯や眼球の除去、各部位の切断、その他もろもろ。お好みのままに仕上げます。
いや、よくわからんからいいよ。
かしこまりました。それでは支度をいたしますので玄関ホールにてお待ちください。
With practiced deference, Arbitra bowed low and waved at the door. The man left with an expression that was both unsettled and excited, like he couldn't believe what he had just done. As soon as the door had closed behind him, Arbitra rose from his bow with a sneer of contempt. Plebeian scum.
これだから無知なバカは困る。せっかく作品を高める絶好の機会をあっさりとドブに捨てると。
He took the chosen slave by the hand and pulled him to his feet. The slave's gaunt, bony knees were quivering.
さあ、お前の主人が決まった。可愛がってもらいなさい。私の愛すべき作品よ。
He laid a soft kiss on the slave's cold cheek and guided him to a door at the back of the room. Behind it awaited the servants who would wash and ready the slave for his new owner. After watching the slave stumble his way through the door, Arbitra let out a sigh. His work here was done. All he could do now was hope that his creation would receive the care and affection it deserved. Well, I hope for the same, but I feel like you don't know what care and affection is. Shortly after the slave had left, there came a soft knocking at the door.
失礼いたします。
なんだ。
Arbitra snapped, unable to hide his displeasure. He hadn't had a moment to rest.
処刑人が歯医者を連れてまいりました。手が空いておりませんので、扉を開けていただけますでしょうか。
Arbitra's eyes instantly lit up behind his mask.
わかった。待て。
Oh god.
恐れ入りま
Oh
す。
god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Quivering with anticipation, Arbitra opened the door. One of his gods, a giant of a man, stood there with a man cradled in his massive arms. He entered the room and laid the man gently on the floor.
失礼いたします。
Oh god. With a perfect bow, the guard departed. Arbitra crouched down and began to assess his new subject. Heavy use of rain had left the young man looking haggard, but he was still attractive nevertheless. Arbitra stroked his off-white hair, likely the result of an attempt to dye it silver, then slid his hand down the side of his face. When he reached the man's lips, he stroked them softly. They were warm. His head filled with wonderful images. There were so many ways he could sculpt his piece. What screams would he hear? What expressions would he witness? What beauty would be born from the labor of his hands? I don't like this. Joy rose inside Arbitra like a frothing black tide and surged from his throat as laughter. Is there an ending where we kill Arbitro? Please tell me there is one. Both Rin and Keisuke were shocked when Moromi appeared with Akira in tow.
え、おっさん？アキラずいぶん遅いなと思ったら。
Yo, I picked him up on the
なんでい
street.
んの？
I found him in an alleyway. Moromi scowled.
いちゃ悪いか。俺は見つけて拾ってきただけだ。
アキラ。
Yeah, my arm fucking hurts, man. And he wouldn't kiss it better for me. Akira felt Keisuke's worried gaze on him as he tossed his back to the floor and flopped onto the sofa. The springs were broken, making it quite uncomfortable. Is everything broken here?
おっさんも一緒ってことはなんかあったの？
Yeah.
右腕を刺されて。 大した怪我じゃないけどな。どれ見せてみろ。
Dude. As Motomi took the seat beside him, Akira shrugged off his jacket and presented his right shoulder. Don't you know that I'm emo? I want to handle the pain, you know, I've become so numb. Now that he had returned, Akira found that his outing had done little to resolve the ambivalence he felt toward Rin and Keisuke. What? Akira had never been much for talking, but right now he didn't even want to look them in the eye. What? Why? Ever since taking that man's tags, he couldn't shake his tortured expression from his mind. It was like a dark fog filling his chest. His inability to explain why it bothered him only made it worse. Keisuke, meanwhile, was staring at the wound on Akira's arm. His expression seemed clouded for some reason.
消毒液と包帯取ってきた方がいいよね。ちょっと交換してくる。
Thanks, Rin.
頼む。
While Rin went running off toward the cloakroom, Motomi lit a cigarette and put it in his mouth. He grimaced as he examined Akira's wound. Maybe the smoke was getting in his eyes. The blood had mostly clotted, but it still looked painful when viewed beneath the bright lights.
そんなにひどかねえな。ばい菌さえ入らなきゃすぐ治るだろう。
I mean, that's what the disinfectant's for, no?
いや、
Of course it hurts! Stop being such a... Bruh. The pain wasn't as bad now, probably because he'd gotten used to it.
そうか。なら大丈夫かな。
Rin came running back. The pounding of his feet almost drowned out Motomi's voice.
お待たせ。はいこれ使って。
悪いな。
Motomi applied the disinfectant, then skillfully bandaged Akira's arm. His deft touch was surprising for such a rough-seeming man.
慣れてるな。
I like that.
ちょっと経験があるからな。
I like
お手のもん
Motomi. He shot Akira a rakish grin.
ね、何があったのさ一体。
Rin perched his elbows on the back of the sofa and peered at the two of them curiously. Keisuke watched in silence.
式が出たってんで、さっきだってる連中にタグ取り挑まれたらしい。
四季。ああ、あいつね。神出鬼没、レアモンスター天然記念物通り魔。
Looking to put him in a museum.
むちゃくちゃ言うな、おい。
Rin shrugged indifferently, but Akira hadn't missed the change in his expression. For an instant, his eyes had been colder than ice. He hates Shiki. Did Shiki kill his former boyfriend or something? They challenged you. Did they take your tags? No, I'm not you, Keisuke. Motomi finished taping up the bandages, then blew a cloud of smoke and leaned against the backrest.
嘘、本当？
Why are you surprised? Yeah.
ってことは初勝利じゃん。おめでとう。
Rin lavished him with an ear-to-ear grin, but Akira didn't feel like celebrating. He didn't know whether the man had been dead when the executioners had dragged him off, but now that they had him, his life was over either way. Oh my god, it's the guy that wanted to raspberry us, and now he's getting raspberried for the rest of his life. Oh gosh. He knew that it was foolish to feel guilty. Igra was founded on the idea that defeat carried the ultimate prize. See? You should have stabbed him. You should have fucking offed him, you know? It's like more merciful in this circumstance. Shockingly. Oh my god, there's fireworks going off. My cat is surprised. There's fireworks in the city. It's okay, Cookie. You can go back to sleep. It's outside our window. Igra was founded on the idea that defeat carried the ultimate prize. But then what was this bitter taste on his tongue? That you've doomed a guy? You should have stabbed him, you know? You should have finished him off. He felt ill at ease, as if something somewhere had fallen out of joint. For quite a while now, his thoughts had been running in circles through what felt like an inescapable labyrinth. He hated this feeling, and not knowing what to do about it was only making it worse. Puberty sucks. Keisuke was watching him, lips pressed together in a frown. His feelings on this matter were surely every bit as complicated as Akira's, even more so. Would Keisuke ask, "Did you kill them?" with condemnation in his eyes? If so, then Akira would explain to him as many times as he must, this was that kind of world, it was kill or be killed. It felt almost as if he were attempting to convince himself. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because you didn't kill them. You wouldn't, and that is the problem here. Just as Akira began to descend into a new cycle of self-loathing, oh yikes, Keisuke put on a forced smile and opened his mouth with apparent difficulty. His next words totally betrayed Akira's expectations. What? Okay. Thanks, I guess. Congratulations? For what? Without thinking, he stared straight ahead, scrutinizing the face of his childhood friend. It was obvious that Keisuke didn't mean it. In truth, he must be dying to interrogate Akira about what had happened. Then how? How could he congratulate Akira with a smile? He's adapting. Because Rin had done the same? Because it didn't matter as long as Akira had won? Was that why he'd chosen to hide his true feelings? Keisuke had offered him congratulations despite the fact that he wasn't thinking anything of the sort. On the contrary, in a way, wasn't he condemning Akira by saying it? No, Keisuke wasn't like that. Akira knew that better than anyone, and yet it was no use. He couldn't think straight. His emotions were a cauldron of black lava seething on the brink of eruption. Go to bed! Trying to calm them was only making it worse. I think you need some sleep. He knew Keisuke's personality like the back of his hand, so why was it suddenly so...
Akira.
Stop smiling. Ooh.
やめろよ。
Ooh. Before he knew it, he had kicked the table in front of him with all his strength. Keisuke froze. Rin and Motomi looked up at him in surprise. For a second, it seemed like time had stopped.
何笑ってんだよ。言いたいことがあるならとっとと言えばいいだろう。
Ooh.
何言って。
聞きたいんだろ。俺がやり合った相手を殺したのかどうかって。
Ooh. Oh, the gauntlet has been dropped. Keisuke withered beneath Akira's glare.
だったら聞けばいいだろう。攻めたければそうすればいい。ぶつかってくればいいだろう。
そんなこと。
アキラ、やめなよ。
Ren, butt out of this, please. But he couldn't let it go. He'd never felt such anger. It was like a splinter deep in the flesh of his palm. Elbows on his knees, Keisuke clenched his fists tightly.
俺はアキラが望んでいたことだし、よかったと思って。
But you still judge me for it.
俺が望んでたとか関係ない。
Yeah.
お前がどうなのかってことを聞いてる。
How many times had he spoken his exact same line? He was sick of it, of how it always ended this way. Keisuke never gave it to him straight. No matter the situation... No matter the situation... He always put Akira's needs first. But of course, it was impossible for a man like him to hide his true feelings. They invariably showed on his face. And yet, despite that, he insisted on the charade. I hate Sims like him. You know, he reminds me of a guy I used to know. It's just, I hate that kind of person. This, like, oh, I'm a simp, but also I want everything to go my way. It's like, It baffled Akira. Why would he do such a thing? And filled him with a burning anger. And I don't mean that, like, it's good to be a simp and bad to want everything go my way. Both of it is bad. You know, I hate both. I hate both. But I hate that it's also so hypocritical, you know? Anyway, it baffled Akira. Why would he do such a thing? And filled him with a burning anger. It felt like Keisuke was lying to him. He hated it. He hated how Keisuke refused to challenge him, how he went along with whatever he wanted. Did he think that Akira needed to be coddled? This was what Akira had always despised, a relationship founded on false smiles.
お前昔からそうだよな。何も変わってない。
Anger had overwhelmed his self-control. The words wouldn't stop coming.
もし俺が死ねって言えば死ぬのか。俺が望んだからってお前死ぬのかよ。
Obviously, otherwise he wouldn't be in fucking Igra, would he?
そうやって自分殺して何か楽しいか。何でも意見優先してもらえて俺が喜ぶとでも思ってんのか。
If you kiss my ass any harder, you'll go right inside of it, right?
アキラ、ちょっと言い過ぎ。
No, it needs to be said. But Rin's voice fell on deaf ears. Akira wasn't processing anything anymore. Everything had gone black, and all he could hear was the sound of his voice. Part of him knew he mustn't speak these words, but the rest of him didn't know what else to do. Keisuke's head jerked up, and he opened his mouth to speak, but Akira's voice smashed him flat.
いい加減にしろよ。お前見てるとイライラする。
Oh, that's too far. Ouch. Keisuke hung his head, biting his lip, face contorted in agony. He was clenching his fists hard enough to turn his knuckles white. Don't make him cry, Akira, please. His words caught in his throat, and he rose to his feet. Akira could see his shoulders shaking. Keisuke dashed from the hotel. You dumbass! You can't protect yourself! Rin, go after him, please. Rin leapt up, but he'd already vanished into the dock streets.
追わないと。
Yeah.
待て。
なんだよ、おっさん。
Motomi pulled Rin back.
いくらお前でもこの時間に走り回るのは危険だ。
What?
だって、じゃあ、ケイスケはどうすんだよ。
What? Motomi answered with a stern glare. Rin shot Akira a pleading look. Oh, fuck! Oh my god, I don't like either option. Both options fucking suck. I want to go after him. Oh, fuck me. He might come back.
戻ってくるかもし
Oh
れな
my
いだ
god,
ろ。
Akira, you fucking dumbass. Go after him. He didn't know why he said it. His mouth moved with a will of its own.
バカ。
Yeah, echt. Rin looked as if he were about to cry. But then Rin sagged like a deflated balloon. He bit his lip and looked away. Oh gosh. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Silence fell. Though the lobby remained as noisy as ever, it felt as though the world had gone quiet. Akida's head cooled rapidly. It hurt to swallow as if he had a giant knot in his throat. Maybe go after him! That wasn't what he'd wanted to say. I mean, I totally understand it. I have to say, I totally understand it. Like, if you've never dealt with a person like that before, you were like, oh, why? He's so kind and he's just doing what he thinks is best for you. No, it's entirely selfish behavior, and it's really, really horrible for the person, receiving it, because you feel like you can never do anything right because the other person is always there for you and doing it for you, and it's positive, and it's just like, no, I don't want this, right? So I understand his frustration. I really do. But also, you allowed him to stay with you. So now you have a certain kind of responsibility. And even if you didn't, he's still your childhood friend. And even if he wasn't, he's still a good person, And it's like, you should really look out for him, regardless of your feelings. I'm sorry. You should really go after him. It's just what I think. After my whole tirade of Akira being too generous. He'd known it would hurt Keisuke, but he hadn't been able to stop. Look in the mirror, he mocked himself, tasting an acute sense of loss. Lashing out at Keisuke like that, all he'd done was relieve his own petty frustrations. What right did he have to lecture Keisuke when he couldn't control himself?
とりあえず少し休め。疲れてるんだろ。
Motomi, you
Yoru ga
cannot be
akita ra
serious! Oh, shit. Something awful is going to happen to him, isn't it? Motomi laid a hand on Akida's shoulder. The younger man's answering nod might easily have been mistaken for a quiver of self-loathing. Akira pressed his forehead down into his folded arms, then sighed in an attempt to expel the knot in his throat. But the knot refused to fade, no matter how hard he tried. Shocking! Oh my god. I can't believe it. His lungs felt ready to burst. Each breath was like swallowing a handful of razor blades. He no longer knew where he was. Takeru was alone in this darkness. Takeru? He tripped over something. Whether it was garbage or a body, he couldn't say, and his tortured leg muscles gave out. He collapsed against the wall of the alley. The concrete chill spread to his cheek. Flipping onto his back, he opened his mouth wide and groaned as he gulped down air.
くそ。
This was all because he tried to steal those tags from the man who'd bought him. What? What? Is he also someone who was modified? In one corner of the club called Meal at Duty, which served as a neutral zone for Igra fighters, there was an area where men with particular tastes gathered. Oh! For one night alone, they would forget their respective positions and indulge needs that could not be satisfied by normal means. They had begun showing up there naturally without anyone's prompting. By unwritten agreement, the color of the cocktails each man held indicated his preferences. When men found kindred spirits, they would down each other's drinks to seal the bargain. The most dangerous color was blue. It indicated an interest in mutilation, up to and including the severing of limbs. Such people rarely found partners and couldn't afford to be picky. Takeru had taken advantage of this. He'd approached a man holding a blue cocktail. His hair had been neat and swept back, his suit rumpled but high quality. The turned down corners of his eyes had given him a gentle look. One might have been forgiven for wondering what such a nice man was doing in Toshima, but that didn't account for the dark light lurking in the depths of his eyes. Delighted at having found a target for his sadism, he readily finished off Takeru's cocktail and took him straight to a cheap hotel that stank of mold and dust. Yikes. Of course, in Toshima, hotel was just another word for brothel. The sheets were damp and covered with old bloodstains, and the thin walls had done nothing to keep out their neighbors' moans. When the man, losing his head with arousal, had pushed Takeru onto the bed and attempted to take off his clothes, Takeru had used the toe of one steel-tipped boot to kick the man's bulging crotch as hard as he possibly could. The creak of the springs, a strangled whimper, even after the man had curled up on the floor, Takeru had kept kicking. His toe sank deep, crushing soft flesh, and he felt hot liquid gush over his foot. As the man convulsed, groaning in agony, Takeru had moved to take his tags. He'd been well aware that he was violating the rules, but those rules were hardly enforced to begin with. As long as he remained under the executioner's radar, it would all work out in the end, he thought. Probably not, if they can sniff it. You know, I don't think you can challenge Ilra with these dirty tags. Besides, a little risk was nothing if it meant getting closer to Ilra. He had no more time to waste. When the moans had ceased and the man had stopped moving, he'd rolled the man onto his back with his boot and reached for his tags. Just then, a loud noise had rocked the flimsy building. Takeru's heart leapt into his throat. Jeers and footsteps, shouts, panicked voices, the sounds were getting closer. The pounding of his pulse grew until it felt like his whole body has become one giant heart. Sweat gushed from his pores, his lone eye frantically sought an escape. The door fell in with a bang, and beyond stood two tall men, the executioners. Without wasting a beat, Takeru shattered the window and leapt into the night. Oh my god, so they're after him. Shit. He hissed one more time, punching the wall. Numbness spread through the back of his hand. The executioners had their eye on him now. No matter what he did, they would hound him forever. Takeru was their ideal prey. Like a pair of blood-mad hunting dogs, those two loved nothing so much as a chase. By running, he was giving them exactly what they wanted. It felt like he was already caught, like a hooked fish running at the end of the line. When his strength gave out, he would reel him in. That feeling only made him more desperate to escape. This was no time to curl up on the street. He had to go back on his feet, keep running. Oh, God. He looked up, sensing someone nearby. He's not going to survive this, is he? It wasn't the executioners. He could no longer hear their heavy footsteps. He scanned the moonlit alleyway. To his right, it looked like a dead end. To his left, a human shape was standing there, hazy in the dim light. A ghost. Nonsense. He didn't believe in such things. The figure appeared to be drawing closer, slowly and without making a sound. Watching the stranger carefully, he put a hand on his knife and prepared himself for battle. It hardly seemed necessary, however. The shape didn't look like it was here to fight. In fact, it appeared as defenseless as a child. Its gait was unsteady, as if its head were in the clouds. Was exhaustion making Takeru hallucinate? Or was it truly a ghost? He couldn't trust his own eyes. Ooh, who are you? The shape grew larger until it resolved into the outline of a man. There it stopped, still some distance away. The man's pale face was faintly visible. Though the darkness kept the details hidden, his lifeless eyes gave him an otherworldly air. Who are you? Takeru growled in a tone thick with warning, his eyes never leaving the man. He felt that if he didn't speak, he might start to doubt his own existence. The man gazed back at Takeru in silence. This proved too much for Takeru's frayed nerves. Oh, baby, be nice. Takeru shouted, hoping to provoke a reaction, but his voice vanished into the night. Sweat ran down his face, cold and clammy. Oh, God. At last the man spoke, his voice soft as a breeze. Was he calm? Empty? It was impossible to tell. For some reason, Takeru's heart skipped a beat. Yeah, I would run. Stop antagonizing. Just run.
気ばかりがせいている。こんなことをしている場合じゃないのに。こんなところでうずくまっている場合じゃないのに。
Yep. The man spoke as if he'd read Takeru's mind. A cold tendril of fear crawled up his spine. Takeru clenched his jaw and fixed the man with a powerful glare. Was the man smiling? The man took a single step toward him, and another, the same unsteady gait as before. The words fell from Takeru's lips. They sounded like a plea. The man drew closer. A shapeless terror seized him, smothering his will to fight. But his back was pressed against the wall, and the dead end to his right prevented him from escaping. Oh god. Oh god. He squeezed his eyes shut. Fear gripped his throat like a vice. Something soft and cold touched his petrified cheek. What's happening? He forced his eyes open just a crack. What is happening? The man was gently cupping Takeru's cheek in his hand. A small smile played about his mouth. He regarded Takeru with pale blue eyes. His deep, rich voice seemed to fill Takeru's skull. Excuse me? He caressed Takeru's face. Though his hand was chilly, Takeru thought he sensed warmth. His fear dissipated, and for some reason a sense of utter peace welled up to replace it. It felt like the soothing embrace of sleep. The tension drained from his body, and he sank against the wall. What the hell? Desperate to avoid being swept into oblivion, he struggled to hold the man's gaze. The man's eyes were strikingly clear and narrowed in a smile. Takeru felt his mind melting away. It was like being under a spell. He couldn't resist. Excuse me? But I know I am not as attractive. Oh, so that was why he understood everything. Strangely, this felt right to Takeru. The man's words carried an irresistible power. They were close enough for their lips to brush. The man exhaled as he murmured. A kind, knowing eye studied him. Peace? What did that mean? With fading thoughts, Takeru reached for the answer. Oh, gosh. The man's long eyelashes moved slowly, blinking as if to ward off Takeru's fears. What is he doing to him? Is he gonna drug him or something? The spell words sank deep into his brain. Yes, strength, that's what he needed. With enough strength to fight off the executioners, he would soon reach Ilre and claim Vischio. After that, running the drug empire would be child's play. If only he were stronger. Yes, but not like this. His voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. His mind was frozen. He couldn't think. The man reflected in his eyes was everything. Are you gonna body modify me? The hand stroking Takeru's cheek gradually slid down to his throat. It was like being touched by soft ice. The hand crawled lower across the chest of Takeru's motorcycle jacket and traced its way down his arm until it met Takeru's hand. Long fingers slowly closed around Takeru. The final spell. Oh my god, what just happened? Smiling, the man released his hand and stepped back. Takeru followed him with unfocused eyes. The man's silhouette grew blurry in the darkness. At last he vanished as if melting away. In the silence, all that remained was the afterimage of a smile. Time itself had come to a halt. After what seemed like 1,000 years, Takeru returned to himself with a gasp. Sweat broke out all over his body. What had just happened? It felt like a dream. Feeling something hard in his left fist, Takeru spread his fingers and looked down. A glass ampule was resting in his palm. Rain. Yeah, that's what I thought. His sweat doubled. Where had it come from? When? Who placed it? The answer was as plain as day. The man had placed it there moments ago when he held Takeru's hand. It hadn't been a dream. Sell it. Head throbbing, Takeru pressed a hand to his temple and squatted in place. Rain. He had never considered using it before. It was the one thing he wouldn't do, no matter how desperate he became. Takeru's mother had succumbed to the temptation of drugs, seeking escape from their life of poverty. He knew all too well where that path led. He covered his face with a hand and took deep breaths, trying to get himself under control.
腐ってやる
Yikes. He pulled the now chainless cross from his jacket's inner pocket and pressed it to his lips. Oh, fucking yikes! Though they hadn't been related, Takeru's foster parents had treated him with warmth and affection. After him, they had welcomed a second child, the girl who would become his little sister. Even poor, their life had been happy. In the CFC, however, it was impossible to receive any support without money. Much like the proverb about there being one set of laws for the rich and another for the poor, the wealthy continued to grow fat and strong while the destitute were left to starve in the cold. It was all about money, money, money. From the CFC's perspective, the poor were something to be ashamed of. The sooner they died out, the better. Eventually, growing pressure from the government had destroyed what peace Takeru's family had found. His mother had turned to drugs, while his father fell into depression, reduced to a lifeless creature who slaved all day for crusts of bread. There was no more talking around the dining room table. Takeru had briefly joined the blaster circuit, hoping to win enough to support his family, but as mother's addiction grew worse and she became a danger to herself, he was forced to abandon that dream. The police officers who'd responded to reports of a deranged female had laughed as they watched his mother cut into her own flesh. They had the eyes of spectators at a freak show. He'd lashed out at them. "It's your job to help her," he'd said, but the officer had gone on laughing. And so Takeru had joined Igra. He would defeat Eel Ray, take over Viskio, and make all of them pay for what they'd done to his family. Are you fucking serious? Your solution is going somewhere where you might never return from? Oh, you dumbass. He made it this far on his own. It was just a little further. All you needed was a little more strength. You dumbass! Just stick to Blaster. Takeru closed his fist around the ampule. Rain might make his wish come true. But if you went down that path, yeah, it would not. No. Just sell it, bro. When he opened his fist again and looked at the ampule, the number on that label leapt out at him. 50%. The concentration of the drug within. Most of the rain on the market was 10%. Anything higher was almost impossible to obtain. Higher concentrations were more effective, but also carried a greater risk of rejection. Limitless power. His hand around the ampule grew clammy with sweat. The man's words echoed in the back of his head. Make them pay for scorning you. Who had scorned him? A face immediately leapt to mind, the face of a man who'd never known defeat. A blaster champion took some significant prize money? Are you kidding me? He's done nothing to you but be kind, or ambivalent. A blaster champion took home significant prize money. He would not need to fear starvation or the government's boot on his neck. He and Takeru were matched in strength. The sole difference between them was the burden they carried. Heat bloomed at the base of Takeru's skull. It made his blood boil to think that such a man with nothing and no one to fight for, stood on the same field as him. You fucking dumbass. His impotent rage had at last found a target, the man who'd made him feel lower than dirt. This time, he would be the one to taste how it felt to be dragged through the mud. What? Takeru would wipe that cool look off his face. He would see the man he hated break down in despair. Perhaps the man would even beg for his life. Why would you do that to him? He's done nothing to you. You know, the other thing he's done to you is follow you without question, help you survive the executioners, and then give you your stuff back. No questions asked, even though he really didn't have to. Goosebumps rose on his back. His lips curved into a smile. He took the ampule up in his fingers. The man who'd left it, who had felt as insubstantial as a ghost. Who in the world was he? Takeru no longer cared to know the answer. If his body failed to accept the drug, it would kill him. But now that the executioners had marked him as their prey, they would pursue him until they had their taste. Either way, he was as good as dead. Squeezing his cross in one hand, he snapped off the ampule's tip with the other. It's like, right? This is why I was saying, stick to Blaster. Why join Ilra if you have such a big burden on your back, right? Wouldn't it make more sense to, stick to something moderately safe so you can support them better? This way you're as good as dead, yeah. Even if you were just still fighting for another couple years, it's as good as dead. You have no idea what is happening on the outside world either. His heart was racing, his breathing ragged, sweat dripped from his chin. With a dropper, he could take it in small doses, but of course, he didn't have one on him. The transparent liquid shook. Takeru's hand was trembling. His heart seemed ready to burst from his mouth. He closed his eyes firmly and took deep breaths. Then he put the tip of the ampule to his lips and tilted it all the way back. Yeah. The cross fell from his hand. Yikes, Takebai. The moon had been awfully lovely that night. Yukari! Takeru turned to look over his shoulder. It was past midnight. His little sister Yukari, who should have been fast asleep, was standing in the doorway. Oh, I'm just noticing the timer. Sorry, I'm really late. Okay, this episode is over. I'm very tired as well, so I'm going to continue tomorrow. I really want to know what happens next, but it's been over an hour, so I'm gonna have to cut this up here. I'll see you next episode, hopefully, and I hope you enjoy. This game is getting really interesting, right? It's getting really interesting. It's slow in parts, I know. Sometimes I find myself like slipping into monotone when I read this, and I'm like, I have to wake back up, you know? It's like, yeah, it's getting slow sometimes, but it's a visual novel. That's just how it is. So, and there are enough sections that are just batshit. And also, I love the edginess of it all. It's so hot topic. It's so funny. I can't wait to see more of Shiki, honestly. And I'm really pissed off at Akira. I will see you in the next episode. Yeah. Have a nice tea to calm yourself down, and I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.